talking about mental health in its vastness. But before we begin there, we have a guest on set, a beautiful and very knowledgeable woman by the name Makreen Abuka, who is, luckily for us, a counseling psychologist, a married wife. Yes, we have to confirm these days, married and wife, with 2 sons, one who's an adult and one who's almost an adult. And Makreen, please say hi to the people.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Maybe we can ask you 1 or 2 questions for the audience to get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So, Makreen, how long have you been married?
I've been married since 2000, the year 2000, April.
Wow.
So that's 23 years going on 24.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And why mental health?
Why mental health? It's an integral part of our existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's in our interest that we really are deliberate around mental health.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And one that's out of the topic, but very entertaining. What is your passion? What makes you happy during the day?
So I love music.
Mm-hmm.
So I do listen to a wide range of music. I sing where I can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also into wellness. So I run.
Ooh.
Yes, and I also exercise.
Nice. For all our joggers, athletes out there, please follow. You can meet on the route.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I think we can get into the topic. So the first question I'd ask you is, to you, what is mental health?
So mental health is an integral part of our existence. It defines how we show up, and it encompasses different aspects of our well-being. So there's the emotional part. So if you have mental wellness, then emotionally you'll be at a certain space. It touches on our psychological well-being, and it also touches on our relationships, so the social factor. So you can see it's cutting across different aspects, which are all critical for our survival as human beings. Yeah.
Awesome. And as you're saying how it cuts across all aspects of our lives, maybe you can explain a little bit on what good mental health looks like and what poor mental health looks like for those who might not understand the difference.
Okay, so as I do so, I'd like to make reference to what the World Health Organization describes mental health as. So, and I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
So they say that it's an essential part of our well-being that enables us to tap into our capabilities as individuals. It enables us to go through normal life stresses. It puts us on the path of being able to be productive and also to contribute positively in our communities. So when you think about those, and then think about the emotional, the psychological, and the social aspects around mental health, then now we can unpack, what is good health, good mental health. So if you are enjoying good mental health, then you, one, are clear about your emotionality, and you allow yourself the space to experience your emotions as they come. You acknowledge that your emotions are neither good nor bad, they just are.
Yeah.
So when I'm happy, I'm happy. When I'm sad, I'm sad. When I'm disappointed, I'm disappointed, right?
Yeah.
And it's all okay, right? Then you find that within that you're able to regulate the emotional flow as it comes.
Yeah.
Then the psychological part will be looking at how do you see things? How do you see yourself? Do you believe yourself to be deserving of life, of the things that life has presented to you? Do you believe yourself as capable of going through those things that life presents to you? Sometimes they're challenging, and yet we have the resilience to go through them. Where we can't, do we feel that we can reach out for help? Because there are people who struggle to reach out for help.
Yeah.
And then there's the relationship part. how am I showing up in relationships? Relationship to myself, relationship to my family, relationship to my neighbors, to the community, all those things. So if I'm able to show up in these different aspects in positive ways, then I would comfortably say that I'm enjoying good mental health. Yeah. Flip side of that is when things go psh, right? So if I have emotional dysregulation, then it is a signal that things are not really as they ought to be. Yeah? And dysregulation would mean I'm experiencing extremes of emotionality and not being able to kind of contain the experience. Or I am not feeling. There are instances where we just get numb.
Yeah.
That's also problematic, you know. If I'm not having good mental health, I'll most likely struggle with the normal stresses of life. For example, if I have exams, it's gonna be stressful, and yet exams are a normal part of life.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a good space, I'm able to plan around the exam and go through it, even though I feel some level of stress. If I'm in a bad space, on the other hand, I could just sort of break down and things would go sideways.
Yeah.
You see, relationship-wise, you'll find that in the absence of optimum mental health, our relationships don't go very well. And we are relational creatures. So if we are struggling relationally, we really are struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. I like how you've said the emotional aspect of it, and how you've talked about being happy, being sad, and sometimes being numb. Are there more emotions? Because you'll come out here and you'll hear people who are saying they're just sad, but it's not sadness. It's a little bit more than that, but cannot express it. So maybe you can take us through that spectrum of emotions, because some people would like to express it or are feeling something, but you know.
Yeah, so there's many emotions, many, and then there's the ones that we are more, we interact with more, right?
Yes.
So sad is one of those. Like even sadness has sort of gradations. It's in a spectrum.
Yeah.
There's very deep sadness, you know, and then there's melancholy, you know, just sort of feeling a little off. There's the difference that comes from person to person, and even within the same person, moment to moment, depending on what is triggering the sadness.
Yeah.
Right? There's the positive emotions, you know, glad, happy, surprised, delighted, excited, you know, there's all those. There's disappointment. When you think of anger is seen both as a primary emotion and a secondary emotion. Secondary in the sense that it could be manifesting something more than just feeling a sense of something is off. So it tends to signal that something is off. But what could it be? It could be, I'm demonstrating anger because I'm fearful.
Yeah.
I'm demonstrating anger because I am feeling a sense of loss of control. Or I'm feeling angry because I have been disenfranchised. I feel that there's an injustice that has been done towards me.
Yeah.
You know? So it helps to be able to identify the emotions. Because when you can name it, then you can deal with it. If it's kind of vague, it's problematic.
Yeah.
Now, talking about the range of emotions, there's a socialization that sort of identifies emotions as right or wrong.
Yes.
And I'd like to disabuse that. There is no right or wrong emotion.
Yeah.
Emotions just are. They are nature's signals to us to a certain situation in a given moment. So when you feel whichever emotion, anger, happiness, delight, envy, jealousy, it's in our interest to take a moment and just be with that emotion. If I'm not feeling the emotion that you're feeling, I have no space or capacity to discount your emotion just because I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, true.
You see? because it's you who is having that experience.
Yeah.
So when we get into the space where somebody is invalidating your emotion, it could affect your mental wellness, because then you're trying to hold back that which is coming naturally. You know, you're trying to play to a script which isn't your natural self.
Yes.
Yeah.
True. As you're at home, I'd advise you to type below here and tell us, which of the three have you had struggle with? Is it in your relationships or your socializing? Is it in your emotions, or is it in your psychological part? Tell us, we'd like to know. All right, the next question is, even as you've started talking about how sometimes people invalidate our emotions and it leads us down a very interesting path, what are other things that cause poor mental health?
So there are some things that you'd say are within an individual's control to some degree.
Yes.
And then there are some things that are totally removed from the individual in terms of control, in deciding whether it can or can't happen, or should or shouldn't happen. So when you think about individual factors, they are personality things. You know? So our personality differ individual to individual, right? So there are those who are introverted, there are those who are extroverted, there are those who, you know, enjoy certain aspects of nature, there are those who are more indoor type, you know, there are those who are hands-on, there are those who are more very cognitive, you know, give me a difficult problem and I'll be with it. Others are like, nah, you know, just give me something that's crafty, artsy, I'll be good. So depends on personality. Then there's biological factors. So some of the things that would come with biology could be, say, body type, body size. For some people, they have the misfortune of not being affirmed in the bodies that they have found themselves in. And so if that happens to be you, you may be very unhappy with how you are. And yet that's what God gifted you with, you see.
True.
And that's not within your power to control in terms of how you show up. But you have the power to decide, you know what, I am going to love myself as I am. You know?
Yes.
If I am very vertically advantaged or otherwise less resourced, you know, I will accept myself as I am. If I am dark skinned or light skinned, you know, all those things. So there are those personal things. There are things that are within biology around, you know, you could be having a condition that predisposes you to certain things. So some people are born with certain neurological differences. So if that is you, it's a question of, do you understand it, and then how do you adapt around that situation that you find yourself in. Then you have the environment. The environment, starting with your family situation, you know, you may have family that is very close-knit, very interactive, very inclusive, or it could be something different. You see? So if it isn't inclusive, if it isn't affirming, then that presents a problem. So at an individual level, you will need to figure out, okay, so how do I adapt to this reality that I find myself in? You have the school environment. Some of the schools that we go to are great at nurturing us with the resources that we come with. And some, unfortunately, don't do a very good job. So if you have the misfortune of falling in the category where they don't do a very good job, then you find yourself at a higher risk of suffering mental ill health than the individual who is more nurtured in a positive sense.
Here we call it there's group of schools and there's a school of groups.
And then you have the societal things that present themselves. So you may find yourself in an environment that is safe, you know, so safe that you can walk around at any time of day or night and not worry about, you know, being mugged or anything. And then there's the rest of us who may live in environments where even during the day you keep checking that the door is locked. You know. So if that is your portion, then you have very different life experiences. You see, security versus insecurity, poverty versus abundance and sufficiency. You know, what policies exist around certain things. You know, how are we embracing diversity? And inclusion, because we do have a whole range of diverse presentations that come. So if all those factors align in a positive way, then more or less one would enjoy, you know, great mental health. If on the other side there is misalignment, then the probability of suffering ill mental health is really high.
Awesome. So how is your environment? Please take a second and just think about it. How is your personality? Are you introverted, extroverted, in between? And also, how's your biology? Have you felt happy about how you are biologically today? Or are you still struggling with it? Take a second and answer those questions as we go into the next question. And thank you. Your knowledge is quite vast and it's really enriching us in one amazing way. So what would you say a breakdown is in your view?
Okay. So in the context of mental health, a breakdown would be a situation where you suffer adverse mental health, right? So it would suggest that you have experienced a situation where you are not able to cope with the situation that you find yourself in. And because you're not able to cope, you're then not able to handle the things that life is presenting to you in that moment. Now, how one ends up there, different routes.
Do you mind sharing these different routes that get us to that point?
So it could be a function of emotional distress. Right? So if something has triggered me emotionally to a point where I find myself unable to contain how I am feeling, then it could be said that I'm experiencing a breakdown of sorts. So I'll give you an example. There are instances where a parent may have some disagreement with their child, say, of adolescent age. So they disagree on something and they find themselves not able to have a decent conversation. They are shouting at each other. And it becomes such, you know, a dysregulated environment to the point where everyone is shouting and no one is hearing what either person is saying, you know? At that point, there's something that's off, you know? You have a problem, yes. The approach that you're using to handle the problem is not helping you to get to the solution. You see, so that could be a thing. The emotional triggering could be something that has changed in your life circumstance. And sometimes it's even positive things. We have situations where individuals are getting married and getting married to persons of their choice. And then it is so overwhelming, you know?
True.
Like, too much to contain. Or you have a child, a child that you have planned for and you waited for, you know, the period of gestation. And then the child arrives and you're just so overwhelmed by this bundle of joy. You know? So positive life circumstances can cause emotional dysregulation. You get a promotion and now you're no longer a peer to your friends. You are the boss. You're thinking,
what do I do?
How do I relate to these fellows? Do I continue as I was before? Do I adapt new approaches? How does that affect our relationship? Can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So life circumstances could take us in that direction. Diagnosis. You could, as an individual, get a serious illness diagnosis, or you could have someone in your family get a serious illness diagnosis. So having to deal with that can be really overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because that does change the dynamics of how life will flow going forward. Situations like divorce, it does happen.
Yes.
Yeah? And there are reasons that lead to that situation. And sometimes it helps to release a lot of tension within the family setup. And yet, it still would affect people in very adverse ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or natural disasters. Yeah. So different parts to this. Yeah. It could also be a situation of abuse.
Yeah.
So those are relational things that then affect the wellness of the individual.
Yeah.
So if I'm subjected to one form of abuse or another, then I will invariably be affected. And depending on my ability to cope, depending on my support network, it might be a little too much and lead to me breaking down. Yeah.
I like how you've said that there are actually positive things that we go through that just overwhelm us, because sometimes you're going through something that's so beautiful, something that you've prayed for, something that you've told your friends you want to achieve, and then you get it and you're just overwhelmed. And in that moment, you really can't explain to people why you're feeling so bad that you got something so amazing. Because there are two sides. There's either someone will listen to you and will help you through it, but there are also those who are just like, why are you being so ungrateful? Like, be content with what you have. It's so nice. So many people, like let's say you get a promotion and now your pay is higher, and they'll be like, with this economy, so many people are trying to get this job, you're being ungrateful. Or you get that scholarship for school, and it's just so big to you that you break down. But other people are like, what do you mean? As we're paying school fees, as we're looking for schools. Yeah, so thanks for that. Is it possible, though, in that same line, for you to be healthy and go through an emotional breakdown?
When you say healthy, in what sense? Physically healthy? Mentally healthy, and then things go sideways? Or?
Mentally healthy.
I would think yes, because life happens.
Yeah.
And remember, the things that contribute to your mental health going sideways are not always within your control.
Yeah.
You see. So you could be doing everything right by the book, and then something happens that is extremely overwhelming. So it is within the space of humanness that you could encounter a trigger that gets you beyond your level of ability to deal.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. I like how you've talked about control. I remember, I think it was 2021, after the whole COVID thing had now started subsiding and things had been overwhelming for me, so I started going for counseling. And I remember on my second session, my counselor asked me to write down, okay, what's going on? Why do you feel the way you feel? And then we went through it, and he's like, okay, what do you think you can control in all this? And then I realized just two things. One, wake up early. Two, eat food, and what about the rest? Why can't you control it? You can't tell the matatu driver, drive quickly, you're making me late. You can't tell your lecturer, teach better, And there are so many different people there. So I remember him taking me through a series of counseling sessions and telling me we need to start learning how to let go of what we can't control, because it's like carrying a bag of rocks and realizing that as you go up the hill, these rocks are getting heavier. But when you put down the bag of rocks and try to walk up the hill and walk with, let's say, your bottle of water that you need for this walk, or let's say a small sweet, you get there faster and you get there easier and you don't get angry all of a sudden. So if you're trying to control things beyond your reach, especially controlling people, it's best to let it go and take care of what you have in hand.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our next question to you would be, how can you prevent having poor mental health?
So I think a number of possible routes to take. One is to know thyself. Know yourself, accept yourself for who you are, accept yourself for what it is that you have by way of resources in the moment, and know the things that you can change and the things that you cannot change. So just getting into that space of reality is a way of helping individuals to support their mental health, right? The other thing would be to have a very robust social support network. We are relational beings. There's a narrative that suggests that we can do life alone. I am self-contained, I can live my life alone, I don't need people, wakwende. It's not practical. We are very relational beings. We need other people. And for us then to support our wellness, we need to spend time and be very deliberate in growing our social support network. Yeah. Because these are the people who come in to prop us in different ways to make it possible for us to really get the best out of ourselves. So that social support network is very important. It also helps to know how you as a person feel when you're at your best or at your normal. Because when you know your baseline, you can tell when things are going off, So if I know, for example, that I typically go to sleep, say at 10 o'clock, and when I go to bed, it takes me less than 10 minutes to fall asleep. If I find myself unable to fall asleep 1 hour after going to bed, there's something that's off.
Yeah.
So that then is a trigger for me to question what is happening. Why might it be that I'm struggling to fall asleep? Yeah. Are there things that I can deal with, or do I need the support of others?
Yeah.
Right? There is a place for having an openness to be helped as well. There are those of us who do not, for reasons that we may not know, welcome the support of others. Often when you go behind the curtain, you'll find they've possibly had not very good life experiences up to that point.
Yeah.
So being open to be supported by others is an important thing, right? Seeking help beyond your circle of friends is also important. Appreciating the value of professionals. People specialize in different things for good reason. Yeah? So when you find yourself struggling with one aspect that you're not a specialist at, consider to get the help of a specialist.
Yeah.
It also helps to have a spiritual life.
Yeah.
Define what spirituality means for you and nurture it. Spend time in growing yourself spiritually, because that does help with giving us, the space to connect with reality, as it were. Yeah, and accept the things that are beyond our ability to change.
Awesome. So please ask yourselves, what can you do to make it better, and how can you make every day a better mental health day? Okay, as we come to an end, maybe you can share with other people how they can get you, and one advice you'd give to someone who's struggling with their mental health.
Okay, so if you find yourself struggling with your mental health, one, I think it helps to acknowledge that things are not okay with you. Two, it helps to reach out to a trusted other to help you walk the journey. Because one of the things that happens when our mental health is affected is that our ability to make sound decisions is also impacted. So getting someone to walk alongside you helps to fill in the gap where you may be missing a thing or two in the process. So I'd highly encourage that, you know what, have a trusted other, reach out to them and let them walk with you in that journey. In terms of being reached, I am one of the volunteer counselors at Parklands Baptist Church. I am currently the chair, and I am happy to be consulted through the church. Very happy to be consulted through the church. And then on the side, individually, I do run, an outfit that promotes general mental wellness under the name of Nawiri Center for Health and Wellness.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your wide knowledge. We thank you even for breaking it down that we can understand it on our day-to-day basis. For you at home, if you liked this episode, please give it a thumbs up and share with a friend, share with a family member, share with anyone who you believe is going through an interesting time in their mental health. And thank you. I think one thing that I've taken home that definitely I am going to work on starting this second is the part for we are relational beings. When you're not feeling good, don't shut the door and, live your life, but open it up. Be vulnerable with other people. There are people who want to be there for you. There are people who are going to take care of you. So if you're like me, please share it below and comment. Yes, thank you. Again, I say this is Parkie Mental Health Series, where we are talking to the youth, and your health is your wealth. See you next time.